Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Friends, today, the 12th November, we are going to discuss the Lona Phala Sutta, or the lump of salt, from the Anguttara Nikaya, the Numerical Discourses of the Buddha. You may be familiar with this sutta and perhaps heard it discussed, for this is a very popular sutta. But I hope that it will give you a few more ideas when you listen to it again. The sutta is about the result of karma and how we experience it. According to the Buddha, if one were to say, no matter how a person performs a deed, action or karma, she or he will experience it in the same way. Now, for instance, if you kill somebody, you will also be killed in the same way. That's what it means, right? Then the spiritual life could not be lived, and there would be no chance of making a complete end of suffering. There were many teachers about, that were contemporaries of the Buddha, who expressed various opinions about the working of karma. One idea was that one will have to bear the results fully of any action done by oneself. In this discourse, Buddha refutes this theory. What some teachers said was, if you have done something small or great, every karma has to be, experienced by you at some time or other in your, different births. But Buddha says that is not so. Let us see how Buddha refutes this theory. The Buddha said this because anyone would commit both wholesome and unwholesome acts while living in this world. If one's unwholesome acts are greater, one would be reborn in a lowly state, depending on the moral nature of actions done both in the present as well as the previous lives. So you can see, when we do something that is aggravated or made more because of certain things that we have done in the past, also are added to it, as it may lead to more transgressions. One would not get a chance of redeeming oneself. Now, that is why Buddha says that is not the way. You see? So we'll see, right? In the discussion. The Buddha continues, if one says, no matter how one performs a deed, they experience the deed or the result of the deed as it should be experienced. Not every karma that you have done, right? Then the spiritual life can be lived and one has a chance to end the misery. That is why Buddha always says, don't look at the past and feel guilt and remorse and all kinds of things, but be in the present moment. Always be in the present moment. Otherwise, how did Maha Moggallana, who had killed his parents earlier, and how did Angulimala, who killed so many counting 999 people killed. How did they become arahants? Right? So that is why Buddha says, you have a chance to end the misery if you do it in this way. How? If it is done like this, if one performs a deed, they experience the result as it should be experienced, not every karma that you have done. According to the teachings of the Buddha, karma may be done skillfully, even at the ordinary sensuous level. But for one who is on the path, it is not just another factor that leads to happiness. It is the most important factor that leads to liberation when cultivated with the idea of gaining total release from the suffering in samsara. So when we do our actions, we must be aware what our action is and how we do it, right? Then the Buddha explains how this happens. He compares two kinds of people. That is, a person who has a small self. Now, a small self, Bhikkhu Bodhi gives the translation as Dukkha Vihari. And in Sinhala, it is called Alpe Shakya. And a person who has a great self, that is Appamana Vihari, according to Bhikkhu Bodhi. And in Sinhala, it is Maheshakya. The small self is limited, undeveloped in body, undeveloped in morality, undeveloped in mind, undeveloped in wisdom, and has a mean character, and he dwells in suffering. He already dwells in suffering, right? Now he is limited because of the limitation of his virtues, not for anything else. He is limited not by wealth or any other thing, but by virtue, morality. His self is the body. He thinks the body is the self. And even if his body is large, he has a mean character because of the limitation of his virtues. You see, even if it's a small body, if that person has virtue, then you can't call that person a small self. Then that person is a big self, right? Great self. Okay, so now let us go further. Undeveloped in body means he has not developed physical endurance or ethics. Just allows the mind to dictate and follow it without questioning or understanding about the consequences. Now, that is the kind of person that you call a small self, right? And that person has never trained his mind and does not follow any Dhamma, so has not developed any wisdom. When such a person creates a trifling bad karma, maybe stealing a coconut from another's garden, right? A trifling bad karma, right? It can lead him to hell, right? Hell could be the animal or Petha world too. Life in these realms is very long and full of suffering. By not knowing or seeing how to lessen the suffering, how to, let go of the suffering or bring peace instead of suffering, they create further suffering. For instance, in the animal world, now if someone is born into the animal world, what do? They live by preying on one another. The stronger killing the weaker for food. Then the Buddha explains how another person, the greater self, creates a similar trifling bad karma, but experiences the result in this very life without leaving even a slight trace for any later life. Buddha shows how an unwholesome act can be changed by the cultivation of certain qualities. How you can transform or reform an unwholesome, unskillful act into a wholesome act. Now, in the Brahma Vihara Sutta, that is also in the Anguttara Nikaya, a meditator who has not meditated before, right? But now he's a meditator, thinks, formerly my mind was limited. Limited because he never meditated. So it was very limited and uncultivated, undeveloped, right? But now my mind is boundless and well cultivated, well developed. Any limited karma that was done neither remains nor persists there. Now can you see? Whatever small karma, trifling karma he may have done in his life earlier, doesn't stay there now because he has started to meditate and he has become a greater self, right? So when one practices the Dhamma, even if one has committed bad karma before, one could be happy, like this meditator, with the thought that now she or he is free of them. No longer will that person have to see the results of those karma. Why? Because now he has developed so much of good karma. So that is why it's important for us, knowing this, to do wholesome things always, whether in speech, whether in mind, or whether by action, right? According to the Abhidhamma, karma is divided into 4 types. I may have given this earlier also, but because this is about karma, I thought I'll tell you again. The first is immediately effective. That is called Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya Karma. This is karma that is to be experienced in this very present life. If it misses to ripen in this life, it becomes defunct. That is an ahosi karma. It will not give you the result again. If it does not give the result in this life, it will not give it again, right? Not in another life. That is called Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya Karma. The second one is karma that is to be experienced in the next life. Now that is called Upapajja Vedaniya Karma in Pali, right? And if it misses to ripen in that life, the next life, it becomes defunct. Then also it will not, bring results again. The third is, now this is the karma that is a little strong, right? This is karma that is to be experienced on some subsequent occasion. That is called Aparapariya Vedaniya Karma. That is, they can ripen at any time after the next life for as long as one continues in samsara. Now you remember Maha Moggallana. Venerable Maha Moggallana was the second most or chief disciple of the Buddha. And he had so much of psychic power. He was the foremost in psychic power in the Buddha's dispensation. But still, he had killed his father and mother eons ago, right? Long, long ago. And in every birth, he had to undergo the consequences in every birth that he was born in after that incident. And in the last life, as an arahant, he was thrashed to bits. His bones were small bits, it seems, so much by robbers, you see, because of that little kamma that had been left unfinished, right? So he had to undergo all that. Now that is why it says it is called a kamma that can be experienced in some subsequent life. Now the fourth one is the ahosi kamma. That is the fourth kind, which becomes ineffective when the right conditions are not present. That is, now for instance, the Buddha and the Arahants do not create any kamma after they become Arahants, right? But they may have certain kamma that, that persists, that they have carried on to the next life, right? So even the Buddha had that kind of kamma, little things that irritates one, right? You remember when Buddha sometimes, while giving a sermon, says, my back is aching, I must lie down a little, and then, he lies down, and then one of the other Arahants, Ananda or Mahamoggallana or any one of them, Kachana, anyone, continues the sermon. Now that means that even the Buddha underwent small trifling irritations because of this previous residue that had been left, right? So the Buddha gives a series of similes to illustrate this point. These are very interesting, the similes, regarding the way one experiences the kamma they have committed. The first simile is where the Buddha asks the monks, if someone were to drop a lump of salt into a cup of water, would that salt make the water very salty and undrinkable? The monks agree, yes. Then the Buddha asks, if the same amount of salt were to be dropped into the river Ganges, would it make the water in the river become salty and undrinkable? Right? The same amount of salt. The monks say, no, Bhante. Then the Buddha draws the comparison between this simile and the kamma done by the two kinds of persons, the small self and the great self, so that the monks fully understand the way kamma works for human beings. You see now, if it's the small self, that person will be like the salt in the cup of water, which will be undrinkable and very salty. The other person, the great self, would be like the salt put into the Ganges river, which is very ineffective. It doesn't, you don't feel at all that there is salt in it, right? The small self is the one who has not done any good kamma in the present life. In this life, that person has never done any good thing. Never been generous, never been compassionate, never kind, you see? So that is the kind of person, the small self. for he does not know or understand the Dhamma, because he doesn't know anything. No, he doesn't know any Dhamma. Does not associate with noble people or has listened to the good Dhamma. So, when he commits a trivial bad karma, it's like the salt in the cup of water. There is no exonerating this action. Even if it's a small one, he will have to bear the brunt of it, right? So, but for the great self, there is no such difficulty. He is one who has done much good karma and has a good record of his deeds while living in this world. So, even if he is involved in the same trivial bad karma, what the other person did, something like that, it would not bring him the same results as for the small self. It will be like the salt put into the Ganges river. He may meet the consequences of his trivial deed in this life itself, never taking it to a future existence. The Buddha takes another simile to explain this matter further. Actually, two similes that I have put together, right? If someone has stolen money or a sheep from a butcher, the poor man without property and wealth would be imprisoned. But if a rich man with much wealth or a king or a royal minister were to do a similar act, right? This is only a simile, mind you, not exactly something that has happened, right? So if such a person were to do something like that, the owner of the sheep could only go to the rich man and plead with him, "Sir, please return my sheep or pay me for it." He cannot, sort of do anything more, only just go and plead. Today, looking at this simile, we may feel that this situation is unfair. But the Buddha is trying to explain the significance of good karma and the result of bad karma. The man with wealth, property, etc., like good karma, he has a lot of good karma, like having wealth and property, is the fortunate one who has understood the Dhamma and is a practitioner. Whereas the poor man is the one who has never practiced the Dhamma or heard or listened to it. The Buddha says that those beings are few who, when they pass away from this world, are reborn as human beings. Once he took a little bit of sand onto his finger and showed and said, the people who are born again into this world as humans or into a Deva world, into a good rebirth, are like this. The amount of sand that can be held on the tip of the finger. The others are like the earth with all the sand around, right? So you can just imagine how difficult it is to regain a human birth or a Deva birth, you see. So therefore, what the Buddha is asking us to do is to be always mindful, be in the present moment, and try to do good things. When a bad thought comes to your mind, always try to see, this is a bad thought. This thought is not for me. I am a practitioner of the teachings of the Buddha, how can I, have this kind of thought and let go of it, right? And also another way of looking at it is how impermanent these things are, right? This bad thought is also impermanent, so let it go. And in so many other ways, you could always, even if you get bad thoughts or bad emotions, or you feel like doing something wrong, you can refrain and keep your mind and body pure and safe, right? So the Buddha continues, most human beings are reborn in hell, or in the animal realm, or in the sphere of afflicted spirits, that is the ghosts, the hungry ghosts. This is due to three causes, that is greed, hatred, and delusion. Desire arises due to thinking or mentally examining things of the past. The past could be in this life or in a previous life, right? That bring about desire and lust, or dislike, anger, and hatred. Both things can be, it can be something that attracts you, something that repels you, right? So here we see the role of the mind in deciding the moral quality or nature of actions. Actually, the skillfulness of the action depends on the mentality. That is, three things: perception, attention, and intention. Now, perception is what you see, right? What you see and what you perceive. Then there is the attention you give to it, the attention. Then the intention of, doing or saying or thinking of something. So these are the three things which led to take the decision one way or another. So what you decide to do is due to these three things. What are the three things? Perception, attention, and intention. So the skillfulness of the way one acts determines the consequences. The skillfulness of the way one acts determines the consequences. Intentional actions done with right view leads to happiness in this world and the next. The kind of karma, this what we have been talking about, can even lead, that is the good karma, right? The wholesome karma, skillful karma, can even lead to the cessation of karma entirely. We have to, if we want to be enlightened, we have to cease all kinds of karma, whether it's good karma or bad karma. Until then only that we try to keep to the good karma part, right? And leave the other aside. But once we enter this spiritual journey in the super spiritual way, in the super noble eightfold path, then we have to give up both kinds, right? So that is called the cessation of karma. And even the present things, not only the past things that we give up, but also the present things that bring about lust, desire, or hatred. Other than trivial karma, the Buddha gives 5 heinous crimes that would definitely produce rebirth in hell in the next existence. These are depriving the life of one's mother, depriving the father of life, killing an arahant, shedding the blood of the Tathagata, and creating a schism in the Sangha. These are the 5 things that are called heinous crimes. By shedding the Tathagata's blood, Devadatta committed a heinous crime. Jivaka, the Buddha's doctor, too shed the Tathagata's blood in order to let out the bad blood that had collected in the wound caused by Devadatta. While Devadatta collected much bad karma, Jivaka committed a great kusala or meritorious deed by helping to heal the wound of the Tathagata. Now, you know that there was a king called Ajatasattu, King Bimbisara's son, the Magadhan king Bimbisara. He was a stream enterer, King Bimbisara. And this son killed the father because of, again, Devadatta, his influence that made him kill the father. But after that, you know, when he had so much of guilt and remorse that he came to the Buddha and he became a follower of the Buddha, very, very good follower of the Buddha. But still, because he killed his father, he went to hell, and he's still, you know, following the or enjoying, how can you put it? He's feeling the results of the consequences of his bad karma still. So that is why it is very necessary to know the Dhamma, what we should do and what we should not do, the wholesome, the unwholesome, the skillful, the unskillful. So when considering karma or its result, intention plays an important role. As right view is the first factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, we can see that if one does not have right view or intention, one could have miccaditti or wrong view, which the Buddha points out as a grievous mistake. Because when you have wrong view, all the rest of the Noble Eightfold Path also will be wrong. As practitioners, if we take the right view, it will benefit not only ourselves, but also others who associate with us. Thank you. So that is the end of my talk. It's not a very long talk, but if you have any questions based on this or in any other form, please ask. So I don't see anyone asking questions. So then in that case, shall we move on to a little meditation? So all of you know that meditation is, you should make it a part of your life, really, just as we do, you know. So it is then that even if you are in the mundane world, worldly beings, lay people, still you can be sure of a good rebirth. But that is not all. We should not only think of rebirth. We should think of this birth too. How we could, you know, live a good life. So meditation will help you. Therefore, that is why, though very short meditation, we do every time. Okay. So please sit down comfortably, whether it is on a chair or whether it is on the ground. Sit comfortably with the spine straight and the neck and head in line with the spine, and feet firmly on the ground if you are seated on a chair, or even if you are seated on a cushion and you are sitting cross-legged, your feet may be on the ground or on your cushion. So when you are ready, please take a few deep breaths and try to hold the breath as long as possible, and then slowly let it out. Do it 2 or 3 times. Place your hands comfortably on your lap or on your knees, whatever way you like. And now close your eyes. Now let go of the desire to experience and identify with worldly things. Let go of the habitual thinking that you do about the past, the present, or the future, planning and so on. Abandon all ill will, anger, frustration, brooding, past experiences that may come to you. Give up all those things. Let go of them. Try to develop loving kindness, metta, compassion for all living beings. In your heart and mind, wish may all beings be happy. May all beings live peacefully. May all beings enjoy happiness. Now focus your mind on the sitting posture. See how you are seated. Let your awareness move through the body, whole body. Feel the air as it, makes your body feel fresh and lively. It's the air that makes it so. Now move your awareness to the eyelids, the eyes inside the sockets, the eyeballs inside, and then go to the lips. See how they are touching each other, the mouth inside, the teeth, the tongue that's wagging, the saliva in the mouth. Now move your awareness to the chest. See it rising and falling, rising and falling. That is what is happening all the time. Not only the chest, but the whole body, rising and falling, contracting and expanding, expanding and contracting, inhaling and exhaling. The abdomen rising and falling. Move your awareness to the shoulders. See how relaxed they are. And the arms hanging from the shoulders. The slightest weight that you can feel. Go down to your buttocks and see the hardness of the cushion or the floor, how you feel it, and think of the element, the earth element in your body and the cushion. No difference. Now let your awareness move through the legs to the feet. Maybe they are touching the floor. Now go back to the nose. See the breath going in and out. And see how the whole body responds to the breathing. Your whole body is moving though you are seated there. If your mind is wandering, thinking or finding some kind of emotion, give it a label. Thinking, thinking. Or if you hear sound, sound, sound. Or if there is a pain somewhere, you can see the pain, pain, pain. And then come back to the rising and falling of the body, of the, the whatever area you feel the rising and falling, maybe the chest, maybe the abdomen, maybe the whole body, or even the nose area, whatever area you feel the rising and the falling. See it. As you look, think there is no I, no me, no mine, no identification with anything. Now, before you close, I want you, as you are in your same position, please repeat what I am saying. You can repeat, actually, say them. May I have compassion for my mind and body. May I start every day with a sense of kindness. May I develop calm and peace within me. May I always be positive and not negative. May I not harbor any grudge against anyone. May I always live in the present moment. May I be mindful. May all beings share my love, kindness, and compassion. Say sadhu with me. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May all of you be well, happy, and peaceful.